This is just Zach and Spiritual.
So I can't claim any of the impact of the actual program, but it's nice to be at least have some association with a group of people who are using their powers for good, if you will, and it feels nice to have that outlet for research as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned your PhD research there, and it was all about tracking reasons for differences in behaviour. Mm-hmm. Did you want to run us through a little bit more about like your PhD? Maybe what was the issue you were trying to solve, how you went about solving it, and ultimately what you came up with. And I guess that'd be very interesting for both audiences here in terms of who the podcast is listened to. And then maybe a couple of key takeaways, like how can this research help you?
Sure. So through my consulting work and then working at the Centre for Retail Studies at Monash, I'd worked with a lot of retailers and retail brands. And at the time that I started with my honours, which was 2010. It was really, I guess, not the start, but where a lot of the discussions around the role of different channels in marketing, and particularly the channels that consumers could shop through. And by shop, I mean not just purchase, but search for information and all of that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that I saw was a lot of profiling around different kinds of consumers like to shop through this channel or that channel. Or, there are people who are in-store shoppers, there are people who are online shoppers, there are people who search online and then purchase in-store. There was a lot of these kind of profiling things. And what I noticed even just from my own behavior is that the way that I shopped with particular brands evolved over time. I might discover one brand through a physical store and then eventually discover their online store. And once I know my size, maybe I only shop online from that point. And so this raised this question to me around, well, I had observed anecdotally that, consumer behavior through channels evolves. And my question, I guess, was, is that something that holds across, larger customer bases? Mm. If so, is it something that we can predict? And then the third question being, if we can predict how people are going to change, can I influence it, right? So can I know that here's this group of customers who are doing this certain behavior, but in a month or 2 months' time, given the trajectory they're on, they're probably going to be doing this kind of behavior. If I like that, can I speed it up? If I don't like it, can I stop it? So that was essentially the general idea. So I used some data from a North American retailer who had tracked all of their interactions with customers across 3 brands over 2 years. And what I looked at was customers who were new. So I wanted to say, well, I can't observe, at least in this data, what people did before that time period. So I was like, I'm going to look at customers who are new to the brand within that time period and how they evolve over that 2-year time. So how frequently are they shopping? Which channels are they shopping through? So are they online? Are they in-store? Are they using catalogs? Whatever it might be. How much value are they spending? And also, what are they doing for browsing? So how often are they going to the website, not buying something? And what products are they looking at? All these kind of descriptors of their behavior. And so I applied a technique, it's called the hidden Markov model, which essentially groups people into hidden states. So think of like a segmentation kind of idea. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that I can't perfectly know anybody's state at any given time. I can only infer it based on what I observe about them at that period in time. So in any given month, I'm inferring that somebody is either, for example, an active online shopper based on the fact that the database captures that they visited the website a certain number of times. Okay. And then what it does is track people over consecutive time periods. So from 1 month to the next, or 1 quarter to the next, or one purchase to the next. do we observe similar patterns of behavior for each individual? And if so, we would say that they've remained in the same state. If I observe different kinds of behaviors, I would say they've changed state or transitioned, as it's called, right? So give you an example of that. So in one given month, if you took a particular retailer or a series of brands, you might notice that I bought 3 things and it was all through a physical store near my house, right? So that you might say I'm a low value in-store shopper for that time period. Then in the next time period, you might notice that I start buying a lot more, but it's through the online channel, right? So then I might be a high value online shopper. And what's interesting then is, well, what changed? Was that something about me? Did I change? Or did something that the brand did cause that change, right? So for example, in my personal experience, I realized that when I was in a physical store, they were out of the size of the business shirt that I was trying to buy. So the shop assistant said, well, if you give us your email address, we can send you things, or you can go onto our online site, whatever it is. And so that was the shift for me, where I suddenly discovered the online channel. Then they started sending me all of these online only sales, right? And so what they've then done is, from making me someone who goes into store, tries lots of things on, I've now become, I just buy the same things I've had before in the size that I know online for often half the price. And it's actually quite interesting, because in that way that they've actually lost potential income from me because they've encouraged me to do a behavior which is not as valuable.
So they've lost the opportunity to cross-sell.
Yes.
And they're also selling you what you would have normally bought, but at a discounted rate.
Correct. And
so they've lost 2 ways.
Exactly. And so when I'm online with a specific brand, I'm filtering to the product category that I'm interested in, then I'm filtering to my size, and I'm probably even filtering to style. So I'm literally only seeing maybe 5 or 6 potential products, compared to if you've got a good physical retail store, you would hope that I'm seeing lots of different things. I'm having some kind of experience. Maybe the shop assistant is suggesting things to me or providing me some kind of service. So that was the general idea around, can we predict which customers are shifting in which ways? And then is that influenced by what the brand is doing with them? And the answer to both questions was yes. And essentially what I was able to show was that, given historical data about the customer, I could predict which type of shopper, so which state a customer would be in for their next 3 purchases with over 80% accuracy. And that was heavily influenced by the communication strategy of the brand to that shopper. Okay. And so the message being, if you're a brand or a retailer, 1, you need to acknowledge that customers change. And so when you're doing any kind of customer profiling, it has to be dynamic. And what I mean by that is, it can't be, well, 3 years ago they filled out a survey that told us these were their needs or their life stage. That's got to be something that's updating constantly, because any slight shift could have massive impacts. I've had a son, my first child, 4 months ago. That has so hugely changed the product categories I'm interested in, the frequency I'm shopping, the media I'm consuming, just everything about my life. And so if you had built your profiling on me 6 months ago, everything's now wrong. So that's message 1. Message 2 is that not only should you be tracking it, you should be predicting how those things are going to change, right? So looking at what are the determining factors that are driving these changes, and when I can see those start occurring for individual shoppers or segments, then I've got to know that their behavior or their states are shifting accordingly.